It's a very good morning to Mike with a return of 2020 with Around the Bend. Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Terry. It's the same old tune and it's the same old crew, but it's good to be back on air on 102.5 FM. And just to make up for having 2 weeks off, I'll bring you 5 shows in February. Now, first of all, we've got a guest here today, Paul Markham's kindly come up the hill, and he's going to talk about the forthcoming Classic Car Show, amongst other things. And
Good morning.
We always welcome Paul's input. Thanks very much for coming up.
It's a pleasure.
I'll just briefly mention the event for this weekend. It's a fairly quiet time of year. We've got something called the Cranksters Hot Summer Nights. It's today, January 11, and it's on the Claremont Showground from 5 p.m. There's an evening show with food trucks, kids' activities. There's a licensed area and trade stands, open to all pre-1978 vehicles.
Now, I understand that's a big show. I believe they get over 700 cars, and they're looking at 1,000.
Don't know much about it.
Well, I heard a little bit about it on Thursday. Chap's got a nice 57 T-Bird.
Yes.
Thunderbird.
Yes, I know the fella. Yeah.
And he said that it's getting bigger and bigger. There is a $10 donation to come
That's
in.
if you want to display a car.
Yes.
$10,
Yes.
which is
I'm not
pretty
too
fair.
certain whether you just walk on for nothing.
There's a
but
gold
it's
coin
definitely
donation
bigger.
if you're a member of the public.
Probably, yeah.
That's the one.
But apparently it's a big one. Big one.
So we could ask the question, why pre-1978? What is it about 1978 that draws a line in the sand? I think it might be the demise of a chrome bumper.
I think it might have been the bumper. I was going to say.
Yes.
I think it's one of the key
There were a
things.
few exceptions. A few cars still had a chrome bumper post 1978.
Not many.
Not many.
I think the American legislation killed a lot of that because they had to have the buffers on them, and that's why a lot of the cars,
Like MG,
MG and Triumphs and whatever heavier, they had to suddenly put these big. And I think the Fiat Spiders as well. They had big bumpers. Of course, the American homegrown vehicles had huge big. I think they had to take a 5 mile an hour impact or something.
So they could park by feel instead of using any skill.
Well, bearing in mind, yes, it's all part of the crumple zone, isn't it?
Now, before I do hand
Paul,
over,
do you know anything about that? Do you know anything about this thing on
The Cranksters?
No. Yeah. Do you know anything about that?
No,
Can you
no.
add any more of your
I can't.
vast knowledge of what's going on around the world?
I would just say that these kind of shows are actually growing in interest and
Certainly.
and it's certainly classic cars and coffee. You've got custom cars and coffee, Cranksters. There's a couple of other show and shine kind of these sort of car park events that are happening all around Perth.
briefly going to mention the last Classic Cars and Coffee gathering at UWA. I don't go to many. It means getting up very early in the morning and driving through 20 sets of traffic lights to get there. But on the 29th of December, I did go, and I got there nice and early, about 7:45, and it was huge. It was a massive turnout of classic cars, and it shows that the classic car scene in Perth is certainly alive and well. There was some unusual stuff there, as you would expect. I won't mention them all, but there was a row of 9 Ford Anglia 105Es all parked together.
And there was another one down the other end.
Yeah, good turnout
So
for
that
that
means
club,
total of 10.
which is pretty amazing. I didn't think there were that many left in Perth.
Well, there you
It's
go.
good to see them out.
Yes,
It is
it is.
good to
Certainly
see them
is.
out.
Yeah, there was a rare Hillman Imp Californian.
Yes.
That's the fastback version.
Yes.
You don't see many Imps at all now.
A Ford Consul Classic as well.
Yeah, they're a rare car.
That is
The
very rare.
Capri.
I didn't see any Capris.
No, Mark. Well, that was a
Oh,
Ford
yes,
Classic.
for the
Mark,
early
Capri.
version.
Yeah.
That's right. the
And what did
two-door.
you bring along, Paul?
I
I know you. I know. What did you bring along?
It would have been European.
Wasn't the Messerschmitt?
No, it wasn't the Messerschmitt. That was my good friend Richard's little Messerschmitt that came in, made a bit of a scene. It was
Certainly did.
certainly drew in a crowd. I drove my DKW, which is the one I drove up here today.
Now the Messerschmitt that was there, was it the open top version, or do you have to open a Perspex canopy
This
to
was
get in and out?
the actual bubble one that had the big Perspex top.
You'd need some sort of air conditioning in that, wouldn't you, on a Perth summer's day?
You'd sweat it out, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You'd
it did look
sweat it
good.
out.
Richard's a tall man,
Right.
I will say. So I think his head was probably really resting on the top of the
Anyway,
perspex.
I admire his sense of humour. It's great to see. And,
You've been in one, Paul?
No, I haven't.
I had a brief ride in the back of one.
You have?
And you sort of look out and you can see the bottom set of wheel nuts on a truck as you stop alongside it.
So you've been
I had
in
a brief ride in one.
And,
You know you're alive, I think, if you're driving
Because
around in one of those.
you get in behind the driver. It's like an aircraft
actually,
cockpit.
on my birthday, the family bought me, paid for me to go out out one room. We went to the go-karts.
Oh,
And
yes.
of course, there you think you're doing a million mile an hour when you're in them. And you get out of it and you watch other people go by, and they're just tootling around. You think when you're
20 k's a
there,
lot.
but when you're there, you really. And something I've never got into, and I've not got into a sidecar. I don't think I'd be game to get into a sidecar.
No, I haven't done that yet.
Have you?
No, I
Have
haven't
you?
either.
No. They used to be quite common sight where I grew up in England.
I think it'd be frightening, personally. Frightening. You're worried about the extension from your sidecar to that motorbike was going to hold on. You
And
know?
of course, cornering calls for two totally different techniques as
Yes.
opposed to riding solo.
Yes, yeah. Richard, he's got a really interesting collection of motorcycles. He's primarily a motorcycle guy, but he's also got three-wheelers. So he's got a few interesting things, like the Messerschmitt. He's got a Noble, which is really quite
Yes, I've heard
strange.
of them.
Yeah, he's got a Heinkel. He's got, I think, a Reliant as well somewhere.
Oh, right.
He's got a couple of. He's got a really, really, really interesting.
Nothing over 1
collection.
litre capacity.
Yes, yeah. But one of the interesting things he's got in the motorcycle collection is, and you would have seen them in the UK, one of those sidecars that was actually fully enclosed with doors on the side. So you had two.
One door.
He's got one with two doors.
Two doors.
It's as long as the motorcycle.
I see.
It extends there, and you've got two seats, each with a door.
What's it attached to, Paul?
To the side of
Something-
a
a
I
Lambretta?
think it's a BSA. He's got a big,
Sounds like an interesting rig.
really, really interesting rig. Yeah, so you're fully enclosed.
So you haven't. It's obviously you know this person very well, and you obviously haven't had the invitation to go in his sidecar.
No, well, he did have invite us over a couple of weeks ago, but we were unavailable because we were
I think I
we were
would've
away
been-
on holidays.
I think I would have been very unavailable. I would have been petrified.
No, it would have been great. Great fun.
No,
Really?
tick it off your bucket
No
list.
fun, no guts, no glory, as
No
they
guts,
say.
no glory. Yeah.
So,
I left my guts alone years ago. I
You
tell you.
never feel as alive as when you're under threat of being killed.
that's why some people jump out of perfectly good planes.
That's exactly right.
Oh dear.
So the other thing I noticed there was a very rare Suzuki Caravan from the 1980s. They've got tiny little wheels. They're very narrow and high, and it looks like it might blow over in a strong side wind. But I remember one of those used to deliver our morning smoko supplies to the refinery when I did my apprenticeship, which is way back in the 70s now. So it's a rare survivor, that little Suzuki, and I suspect they make them very narrow for small Japanese alleyways. The other unusual vehicle there that I spotted was the one-off Wolsey 2480 utility that was custom made here in Perth.
I saw that. Yeah, that's been there a few times.
All credit to the owner, Ian, and Paradise Garage, who did a lot of work on that car. A rare beast. Paul, let's start talking about the Classic Car Show, which is
big
scheduled
one.
for the 8th of March.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me down again.
Well, that's what you're here for.
Yes, it has been a while. I know. I meant to come out and see you guys last year, but you know, things in the past. Yes, Classic Car Show, the big classic event of
2020 it is.
2020.
Oh,
yes,
I thought
just
I'd help you out, Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Where are we? What are we doing again?
And
Okay, so we're back at Ascot. It's the 2020 show. We've got 70 odd car clubs coming again, about 1,000 odd vehicles. Some of the themes that we're looking at this year is, 2020, past hindsight. We're looking back at some of the past cars of the future. We're going to have a special display of interesting vehicles that were seen as being cutting edge back in their day.
Citroen DSs.
Citroen DS is definitely in there. Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. When it came out, 1955.
55.
It was a league of its own.
It was so far away from everything else that was on the road. And it was 20 years that they kept that model running. That was amazing.
I haven't had a ride in one yet, but I'm told they ride very well.
Yes, one of my friends who
Waft
has
along.
one says it's like sitting in a very comfortable lounge chair as it drives softly down the
Well,
road.
remember the roads in France post-war were probably one of the worst in Europe. I mean, they'd been battled and bombed and everything else, but they were pretty atrocious away from. So that's why the old 2CVs and all that, they sort of bounced around, and you sort of rode the waves, if you know what I mean. So anyhow,
hydrodynamic suspension.
It's interesting watching one just start up, because
and then they
start the engine and they just look like an elephant getting up.
You think you're going to sort of spacecraft going to sort of carry on.
And I still think even today when you look at them, they are a stunning look, very space age, amazingly advanced for their
They did
time.
an enormous station wagon version called a Safari.
Yes, there's a couple, I think there's one or two in Perth, I think.
Have you managed to grab one of those, or for the...
Oh, we've got a DS coming, yes. We've selected a few different kinds of vehicles. You've got like the Chrysler Airflow.
Yes.
We've got that from the museum. But it's actually the DeSoto, which was the budget version, but it's exactly
Very
the
similar.
same, just a slightly smaller one. That's good to see.
And
It's such an amazing vehicle when you talk about that when it came out. It had the whole girder body, integral body, so that you could roll the car over, and it would, the body wouldn't come off the chassis and kill people. It was actually designed with a whole lot of safety features in mind. But the irony of that in America at the time, when they went out saying this is the safest car in
nobody wanted
America,
to buy it.
everyone thought, well, if you've made it with so many safety features, it must be dangerous. So they didn't buy it. I think that 45,000 of them got made, which is pretty good. Like, if you were in Europe, you'd be going, whoa, that's a really big number. But in America, that was really low numbers.
Yeah,
They
you
were
basically
producing
cancelled it
millions.
overnight.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that. But there were other couple of car companies that did the same thing, had the same design as well. And I think Singer was one of them. I can't remember, there was another British company, and there's something else as well.
The Jowett
or something. Yeah, but there was somebody else that had it too.
Well, the Jowett Javelin was quite successful. I think I made about 23,000, which is not bad for
a
UK.
small company.
They had some difficulties with the gearbox, which was manufactured in-house, and then they couldn't get bodies made by a company called Briggs, who were bodybuilders for Jowett, and in the end they just wound it up. They paid out all their employees and suppliers and closed down in an orderly way. But the Javelin was a good-looking and a futuristic shape. It came out in about 1949, I think.
Yeah. It was one of the few British cars of the period that was actually a completely new design. They went back to the drawing board, clean sheet of paper, and designed it from scratch. Whereas everybody else,
it
all across Europe,
evolved. It just evolved.
What was the last car we produced before the war?
We'll make it
we'll change a few features.
And of course, you could get away with it at the time because people would buy literally anything.
Yes, absolutely.
There was a shortage of motor vehicles after 5 or 6 years of no production.
Yes.
Is that how you got the collection of your cars, mate? Did you buy anything? Did you?
Well, again,
Was that all
the DKW.
Was that all available? When you walked?
It has to be different.
Has to be different. Well, that car, the one that I'm driving here, the DKW, that was 1939, the 1939 model.
Well, that's a 1939 model.
That's actually, that's 59, but it was a 1939 model. It was due to come out in the 1940 production year. War got in the way.
What happened there?
And so they didn't.
But once again, it's a very streamlined shape.
Yes,
I don't know
that was
how
a
good
cutting
CD
edge in its
factor
time.
is,
Not that's one for the futuristic car display.
Hey, it's not that cutting edge, is it?
But it is interesting.
They did a sporty version with a drop top.
Yes, yeah, it looks like they used to nickname it the baby Thunderbird because it looked like a Thunderbird.
Yes, I think I've seen a picture.
So we're going to have a bit of a display of those some are interesting cars, some are controversial. Some people might go, really, why would you select that one? Because when you talk about past cars of the future, you got to think about what people were thinking at the time. Did they think that was going to be the way things were going to go? And then most of the time, that didn't really happen.
That's right. It doesn't often hit the spot.
Didn't hit the spot, and everyone kind of went, no, and moved on
Sometimes
to
it's
something
too
else.
advanced to the public.
Yes.
The Amphicar seemed a great idea at the time,
It
but
did
it
seem
didn't
a
really
great
take
idea.
off.
No, it sort of didn't take off. It sort of sunk to the bottom of the river. In many
Actually,
instances.
isn't there a big rally for the Amphicar this year in Australia or somewhere? There's
Oh,
about
I
all
don't
of 10 or 12 are going to all get together with a national rally
That would
on
be
Lake in Canberra. What's
Burley
the
Oh,
name?
Burley Griffin.
Lake Burley Griffin.
Is that it? Burley Griffin.
That would
apparently.
be an interesting thing to go and see.
It
I
would
do
be.
know someone who's got one, so I'll ask him.
So-
Ask him. I know. I believe it's. Yeah, I believe it's.
For those listeners that are curious, the Amphicar came out in about 64, and it was a genuine amphibious car, but steel body, and
French, wasn't it?
German,
French.
German.
German, and oddly enough, they used not that there's anything wrong with Triumph Herald mechanicals, but the German company used the Triumph Herald engine.
Did they?
It's a really interesting combination of things. The guy who did the Hans Triple was the designer, and he was one of those people that designed really, really imaginative and clever cars that completely failed. Like right from the 30s, he came with these amazing streamlined designs, and everyone go, "Whoa, that's just
A boffin.
insane!" There's like a little little wheel with egg with wheels. And, failure all the way through.
So you'd be hard to actually get someone to invest, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You'd mention,
yes.
Hello, it's you on the line. Oh yes, I want some money out of you. And, oh, click.
And then they decided for some reason or other that an amphibious car with a sports car engine, they claimed it was a sports car performance, but that could drive in the water would be a great marketing opportunity for America. So they sold most of them. They tried to sell them in America,
Right.
which didn't really work out. So they're selling them more in Europe as well.
Probably would have done better in the UK if it had a fiberglass body, because driving a steel-bodied car into water was inviting
Was it?
rust issues.
Yes.
Well, I wonder if they had the plimsoll line near the door sheet.
I think
below it,
there's
then
a
you know
little,
you know you were rather sinking.
I don't think you need to see a line to actually know whether you're sinking. When the
but-
water starts coming up through your...
I've actually seen. Have you seen one in action? I have.
Yes.
Yes,
Down,
I have too.
down the Thames.
I have.
Yes.
Well, I saw it down the Thames. But it had the Oxford Cambridge boat race,
Right.
the Thames, and they had one there floating or driving around or whatever.
The
So-
guy
so
who has
it's
one
Not
at
too
Perth,
bad, but we're moving on a
yes,
little bit. We're a little bit
we've gone
away
a
from
little
your.
away from the
Who
show.
mentioned amphibious cars?
Well,
Paul, let's get back on track.
back on track. Okay, so the Classic Car Show, that's one of the themes. We're going to have a special display, as I said, maybe about 20 odd vehicles that have a certain interest or iconic value for that. So come along and see that. There's a few other anniversaries that are being celebrated by various clubs and things, and they'll have their own displays. The Ferrari Club is celebrating I can't quite remember, 50 years of the Ferrari 250 GT, I think. They're going to have, I think there's 3 in Perth, and they're trying to get them all to attend. So that's something to look out for. Bus Museum is celebrating
Yes.
60 years, and they're going
Yes.
to have a number of buses down there, which is great to see.
It's part of that group.
Yes, oh, you are. That's absolutely right. Yes, yes, that's really good. We've got the Bus Museum always puts on a really good display. We've also, this is another feature that we're having this year, is that the Perth Radio Electric Car Club is going to have a race meet at the show. So these are guys who have the little electric cars that are radio controlled.
Yep.
They're going to have a race meet there, so there'll be people actually racing, competing. They've got their own track that they'll put in. It's a carpet track. It'll be probably underneath the Bookies Pavilion, where people will be able to go and watch the racing,
that'll be
and they'll be able to exline, how they
Bit of a highlight for visiting kids.
Yes, it would be fantastic. Well, you say that, yes, it's great for the kids, but there are a lot of adults who participate in this, because it actually really is a very interesting sport. And there's like national competing things as well, And so that we're the local one. There's, I think, a couple of clubs in Perth, and then they can compete up to national level. Some of those cars can go around like 50 kilometres an hour.
Not hanging around.
No, they can be very fast, and they are effectively like miniature cars. They have their own suspension. It's really quite amazing, and it'd be a great thing to go and see. So that's all part of the show. Come along and see that. We've got
So for the public, opening times.
opening times Sunday, 8th of March, and again we're at Ascot Racecourse. Gates open at 10. It's $10 per adult, and children are free. So great day for the family. Lots of food choices. It's a good atmosphere there as well. So
And
come along.
and most clubs would have pre-registered by now, Paul. To
yeah, so I think we've got
flag their interest.
68 clubs. We usually get about 70, 72, depending on availability. We've got some interesting other clubs that are attending this year. The WA Classic Speedway. They had one vehicle last year because they were a late entry, and also the WA Historic Touring Car Club is also putting on a display.
Right.
So they're going to have some race cars.
There's some
and stuff
interesting
down there.
vehicles there. That Historic Speedway club, they're very active. They do a good job of finding and resurrecting old speed cars that have been buried away in somebody's shed for decades sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
And then people come up with period photographs and they try and restore it, or restore it as little as possible back to the specification it had at the time.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. Both motorcycles and cars, so sprint cars and things like that.
So a bit more emphasis on motorsport. Which
is good.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, well, you don't see many of the motorsport vehicles out because they don't really drive on the road as much.
No.
But it's a good opportunity to get them out and get them on display in the
It
public,
is.
and then bring awareness to those clubs that they are out there. And
Yes. Yeah. Well, it seems to be going from strength to strength against all odds.
against all
Well, you're still there.
And I'm
aren't
still
you?
there, I'm
You're
still
You're
there.
doing your best to
keep it going.
keep it going.
But
Yes.
I will say, I'll say it out loud, I won't run it next year, though.
There's nobody listening, so they didn't hear that. The transmitter just went down.
I
So,
do,
all right, you have to repeat that again.
I think, definitely I'd be involved, I would say. But
Yeah, of course.
I'd like to step back.
you need to let other people come in with some other ideas and bring some fresh ideas to the thing. Otherwise, it just becomes like, what does Paul really like to display the theme this year? What am I going to do?
There'll be a stampede of volunteers.
Oh yes, you may see the volunteers rushing to that job.
Those young enthusiastic car enthusiasts do contact.
Well, it's put on by the CMC, isn't it?
Yes, Council of Motoring Clubs.
Correct, and you've had a stampede of people taking the positions.
I believe there's a new secretary
Yes,
now.
we've got a new secretary. We've got a new treasurer. Forgive me, I don't know their names. And this year in the Classic Car Show, there's been quite a number of volunteers who've stepped in to help as well, which is good. Good to see.
It is
Spread
good.
the load a little bit.
It is.
If people want any more information about the show, you can always check us out on Facebook. There's a Council of Motoring Clubs page, and there is, of course, the Classic Car Show event.
And for dinosaurs like me that don't use Facebook, you can still go to the website and get information.
Yes, you can. And there are flyers floating around out there. I've distributed it to every single club in the world, I think, and hopefully they've stuck it up at their local club.
You mean put it up somewhere, not stuck it up somewhere. No, well, it's a premier event for the year.
Yes,
and
it's a good
and it's an extremely good fundraiser. What's it go to, by the way?
Primarily the Motor Museum.
Yep.
To keep that
Yep.
up and running.
Yep.
There'll be some discussions, I think, this coming year about how we distribute all of that.
Yep.
Council of Motoring Clubs itself is looking to do more sponsorship
Right.
of opportunities to help the movement itself, and that's being debated at the moment because we think that we could fund certain projects and there's a lot of work to be done.
Certain things, but it's still going to be at the same place, and that's the main thing. And
It's a good venue.
It's a very good venue, and it's a cool venue. You get a warm day,
Yes.
you get those lovely breezes across because the river wanders virtually around it, does a U shape, and that's in the middle. So you're not caught in what I call stifling hot day there.
Yes,
It
is quite good.
quite moderating,
And easy to get to.
and some very big trees there as well. Which is very
Now,
pleasant as
if
well.
you're a exhibitor, you need to be there pretty early. What time would you suggest, Paul?
The gates will probably be open from about 7:30 up until 9:30.
And you
Probably-
actually allocate gates to clubs, don't you?
Yes, yeah. This year we're doing something slightly different. Instead of mailing them out, we'll be emailing out passes to the people who've registered. But that's all organised through your club.
Yes.
Your club coordinator will be sent
that.
instructions very shortly. And I was just working on the passes designs for
Oh, well done.
last night. So I think we're almost ready to start sending them out.
So what's the date of it? Need to know that. What's the date? It's Sunday,
8th of March.
8th of March.
Yes.
That's right. So that was a little bit earlier than last time.
It is a
or-
bit earlier.
It is. There is a race program on later on in March,
Oh,
and
right.
it
Yep.
meant
Fitted
that they
with
couldn't-
that.
Yes, yeah.
I suppose they need to give horse races priority at Ascot.
Ascot Raceway.
Yeah, you would think that that's probably one of the reasons that it's there.
Now, the other event that I should mention today, in case you want to put it in your diary, mid-February, which is not so very far away, February 16, which is a Sunday, the Northern Swap Meet. It's presented as usual by the Avon Valley Vintage Vehicle Association, and public entry is from 7 a.m. finishes at midday, so don't bother turning up at 11 because you'll be wasting your time. It's an early start. They'll have vintage cars, trucks, tractors, machinery, engines, that's in stationary engines, used spare parts, collectible items, and it's $15 a site if you want to be a seller, and for public it's only $5 to enter. So that's Sunday, February 16. The next Shannon's auction is on 17th of February, which is probably a Monday. And there is an auction being held as we speak over in the US of A. I think it's called Meachem. It's held over 12 days, a huge affair, and there should be some results available very soon. And one of the cars being auctioned is the actual Ford Mustang used in the chase scene of the movie Bullet, starring Steve McQueen. So there's a lot of interest in that car. It's in fairly poor condition, but it's all there and complete. And they're expecting to get about $5 million for it.
Wow.
That was probably one of the most iconic chase scenes ever filmed for a movie.
Yes.
Around the streets of San Francisco.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
So everyone just loves that. Everyone just loves that.
If I was going to buy that, I'd probably try and check the suspension.
And I had
I think they might have beefed it up a bit.
well, I think also, how many did they use in them? Because often they used about 4 or 5 different cars.
Yeah, I would imagine they must have done.
But it doesn't matter. Let's not get this in the way of a good story, especially when it comes as dollars to it.
Now, later this month, there's another event I'll give a plug to. It's called the All-Wheel Show and Shine. It's on January the 19th, which I reckon it would be a Sunday week. It's at the Swan Athletic Sporting Club in Herne Hill between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. All pre-1985 models are welcome. Pin-up parade, music, markets, food trucks. Free entry, but a gold coin donation is welcomed. Perhaps they'll try and raise some funds for some worthy causes. Plenty around at the moment. Paul, I'd like to thank you very much for coming up here once again and talking to us. Maybe on a future occasion we might talk about the original Markham private car collection here in Perth.
Yes, we can certainly do that. Maybe in February I can come back and give you an update on where we are.
February, as quick as that.
If you like.
We love it.
But yeah, I'd be happy to talk
my
about
sense of humour. I've just thrown it out the door. But no, that'd be wonderful. Well, I see you so many times. I could actually go around with a roving reporter and report firstly on the month.
on site down at...
Oh dear. I'm sure to be a million seller. I think not. No, it's good. You've obviously got plenty of things to talk about.
Yes.
And we're about other things as well, which is quite good too. Well, in fact, it's very good.
Very good.
In fact, it can't be
It's a
better than it
pleasure.
is.
It says next time I won't drive the DKW up here
Oh, no.
because
You weren't late
You
for
have
the show.
have
You
to-
weren't late for the show. So.
crawling up the Gooseberry Hill in first gear. I really didn't like that very much.
No, and the buses were trying to pass you, weren't they?
Yeah,
And
well.
the trucks.
It's all right for you
You've got to
people that
have
live
it.
down on the flat. You
It
see,
is.
you forget what a good hill is.
Yes, you do.
I think you've got to have a sense of humour driving your cars, haven't you, Paul?
Yeah, you have to.
And thick-skinned.
But you see, you get more
more
fun
boring,
driving a small
enjoy it.
car because you have to drive it at 9/10, and there's more driver involvement.
There's more thinking about what you plan, how you're going to negotiate certain things.
Plan.
Do you find cars can't wait to sort of get past you? Now, I mean, I'm still that silly thing. I've got my old Vauxhall. You know, now that'll keep up with most, well, not at the moment it won't, but in general most traffic. And yet, the lights. There's 2 cars' lights. My car, there's nobody behind me, and they're all piled up behind all the others. And then suddenly the Vauxhall takes off. And they go, oh, they're all after.
People are very, they're not really patient. And they see an old car and they go, all right, better
must
go
be
around
slow.
that. It must be slow.
Even if it's not.
Yes.
And of course, it's easy just to plant your foot in an automatic,
Yep.
and things happen
Let's get away
virtually
from
instantly.
Yes.
But you get to the next red light at pretty much the same time.
Okay, well, we're overrunning it now, thanks to you, Paul. I mean, thanks to Paul for overrunning it.
Lucky I do have a sense of humour.
We'll be
We
back
have
on
on this
air.
show.
You do indeed. We'll be back on air same time next week with Around the Bend. Thanks very much for listening in, and we'll bring you some more details of classic car news. And Paul, we'll look forward to seeing you again in the next month or so.
February, he said.
Yeah, I think February would be good.
Good time.
We can give you an update on Classic Car Show, where we are at with those sort of things.
Very good too.
Yeah, talk about other stuff.
Excellent. Thanks,
Thank you,
thanks
Paul.
for Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you all again. Well, we'll see Mike next week, I think.
He'll be here.
Paul's happy to just come in here now and again.
DKW needs time to recover.
It does.